Welcome to the Chef of X podcast.
And you're not, and right now you're the most interested in politics and transport.
Yeah, that's like what I'm really interested in, like housing and transportation, making San Francisco like a real world-class city.
Now, what are the examples of world-class cities as far as housing and transportation go?
Yeah, Tokyo is a great example.
And why is that? Why is that? What is special about Tokyo?
Tokyo's like zoning is very lax. So zoning is what like determines what a place looks like and how tall it can be. So they have very lax zoning, which enables a variety of housing to be built. So that's kind of where you get the like cubicle, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I forget, pod housing. Yeah.
And pod housing, just to explain that briefly, what is that?
Yeah, pod housing is like you have these little pods that
It involves pods.
it involves pods. But yeah, they're kind of like very small. You can kind of sleep in them, obviously.
Well, how is it different from a regular apartment?
Yeah, so there are kind of rows of these. And you get kind of like a tiny room. Now, should everyone live in those? Probably not. But it's good to have a variety of options available, and most importantly, they're cheap.
So how do bathrooms work and kitchens work?
So they're shared.
Yeah.
They're shared.
And how many rooms per bathroom or kitchen is normal for a pod house?
Maybe 5 or 10, 15.
15. That's
Yeah.
different from a normal apartment. Right?
Yeah, very different, very different.
That's closer to like a dorm.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dorm, exactly.
Pod housing. Okay,
Yeah.
so there are certain cities.
I should bring up like a photo. I think that would be useful.
Okay.
Pod housing. Or they're usually like pod hotels.
Yeah.
Images.
But in your view, there are certain cities that
So they look like this.
have better zoning, which allows for things like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. This looks like a row of washing machines.
Kind of.
It's like a mixture between a bunk bed and a washing machine.
Yeah, yeah.
As a hotel, this makes a lot of sense.
Yes, they're usually hotels. I wouldn't live in that long term.
Yeah,
I've stayed in a pod hotel. It was pretty chill.
Yeah, I was just telling you about what I would argue is a housing experiment at the domes that's similar to pod housing because you have a bunch of quote unquote homes that are all really in close proximity, but not nearly as close as pod housing.
Sure.
And obviously the government system I didn't like there, but the idea behind having a bunch of small houses, almost like, I think this is the same idea as a trailer park, but having a bunch of small affordable houses in a small area.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you could just scale it up as much as you want. I think it is really cool, and it is something that might make more sense in the future.
Yeah.
Because the single family homes thing
is not
just takes up a lot of land.
It does, yeah, exactly. It takes up huge amounts of land, and it's not sustainable for a variety of reasons, including like transportation. It's dominated by the car. A single family home needs a car because it's not very financially sustainable to provide transit for that.
So to you, the housing and the transportation are kind of
Are
the same problem.
intertwined. Yeah, they are. They're very intertwined. And it's a mistake to decouple them from each other.
And San Francisco in particular has this problem, or do you just love San Francisco, so that's why you're focusing on it?
It's part both. It has a huge land problem and housing supply problem. It is the most expensive city in the world,
Really?
just by sheer price.
How is that measured? Like the top, like is it an
Like
average?
average rent,
Yeah,
right?
average rent, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. As a big city, yeah. I mean, in terms of like income to housing ratio, it's one of the top most expensive cities in the world. Yeah.
But then also just flat out, average rent is the highest.
I'm pretty sure.
Or it was based on whatever
Someone can-
paper you were reading whenever you were reading it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, building upward does seem to be a really important part about making sustainable housing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that seems to be solvable with regular apartments.
Right.
Like what?
Right.
Here's the thing. What is wrong with normal apartments in your view now? Do you think they're particularly wasteful?
No. I
like-
think of like single family homes as like wasteful.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The apartments are fine.
And you could, if you build really, really high ones, right? Then
Then you can
that might be the way to
house a
go.
lot of people on a small part of land.
Yeah. Okay, but the zoning. So, in your view, the way that zoning is set up in a city determines, kind of constrains the creativity around housing and transportation.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's like 70% or 80% of land in San Francisco is zoned for single-family homes.
Oh.
It's like a huge percentage is zoned for single-family homes.
And in your view, it should be 0% or just a very small percent?
Well, I mean, it's not about like banning them outright, right? But
Well, let me say this. If it's zoned specifically for single-family homes, let's say the zoning was, instead of specifically for single-family homes, just for homes. Then there could still be some single-family homes.
Exactly.
Without stopping the development of other things.
exactly, yeah, and that's kind of the idea that I would want to see.
And it's
in
possible
San
to
Francisco.
kind of have some optimization function for what should be built based on
Sure.
the number of people that have needs.
Yeah. I will say this, like San Francisco won't be affordable without apartments. Period.
But it has apartments, right?
But it needs more apartments.
And then there's the question, how many more for each, time period?
So-
At time T, how many apartments should we have?
Well, it's been decades of underbuilding housing. So, and I think as it stands, California is like number 49 in terms of like homes per capita in states.
Yeah. Well, there may have been, to be fair, how do you know when you're going to go through a huge boom in your population? So maybe there's been specific zoning for, 40 years. Because according to the predictions at the time, maybe it wasn't as big of a deal. Maybe they were behind by just a little bit.
Sure.
Whereas now, I mean, how many people are moving to San Francisco
Well,
for
it's kind of,
tech-related reasons?
yeah,
And that's just the last, year, 10, 20, 30 years.
sure.
So can you really predict those things? And can you be
No,
mad
you
at them?
definitely, I mean, well, you can model them. I mean, but then it's based on zoning, right? The zoning is like a capacity for how many people you can house.
Yeah. And how often...
So it kind of like negates itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I feel like the deeper problem is how often can those zones be revised? Because if it can be updated every 3 months, then it's a huge problem that there's still the zoning for the same.
Well, they usually don't do that. They usually update them like every few years.
Right. And that's the problem, is that population growth can happen. There can be a lot of growth within that time period that they're updating, so that they could have just been off by a few thousand houses or a few hundred
million.
and then at 3 years update. Okay, let's see where we are. Oh, we're off by 1 million.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the root of the problem.
So the official number is that California needs 3.5 million homes by 2025.
Or else what? Just the homeless population increases.
To if I know correctly, it's to bring it within American housing price increase. So California is growing like this in terms of housing prices. If we were to bring it back to normal American price growth, how many homes would it take?
But it's not in everyone's best interest to bring those prices down. I mean, if I were the property owner, I might be happy to own property in San Francisco or single family home even, because maybe when I bought it's increased in value so much.
And you're paying very little taxes on it because of Prop 13.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so Prop 13 is basically, the idea is that when you buy your home, you've bought it at your property taxes can only go up so much. So it's 2% a year. And so let's say you bought your home in 1970.
Yeah.
And now you're paying, so your home is worth millions, but you're actually still paying the same property taxes on the value it was worth 30 years ago. Yeah.
And why is that? Why was Prop 13? What's the idea behind it?
The idea was that, property taxes were going through the roof back in the 70s. And, the logical response is to build apartments to keep property taxes down for everyone. But what they did instead was, why don't we cap it? So that was what they decided back then.
I really don't like that. Not specifically that law, but I don't like the idea that it's pretty normal to make financial policy without really
considering the consequences.
Yeah, but I have serious doubts that everyone that's involved in policy making is educated in finances. And things like that really worry me.
Well, they trash your finances for sure.
Well, it just doesn't seem to be a wise financial decision.
Oh no, it was a terrible financial decision.
And I almost feel like it shouldn't be allowed. We shouldn't be allowed to place caps on things should have to be aligned with the market on some level.
Yeah.
And to say that, okay, from now on, we're just going to artificially do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess subsidizing makes sense in a lot of cases, but maybe it's holes in my financial education, but that's very disturbing that that's true.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. So anyhow, because of Prop 13, a lot of people who own homes now, these single family homes, which might be detrimental to the community in general.
Sure.
It might be very nice for them because
it might be.
They likely are paying lower property taxes.
They are. They definitely
because
are.
In a growth period, the property taxes would be increasing.
Right.
So if there's a cap on it, then eventually they will be paying lower taxes versus if it were a decay of some sort.
Yeah.
Then if they had an artificial, I guess the opposite of a cap, whatever is an underneath cap, this is the lowest you could possibly pay, then they'd be suffering.
Right.
Because they'd be paying a higher property tax than everyone else.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So some people like it.
Some people like
don't,
it.
And it takes 3 years or whatever amount of years in order to edit the zoning, which you think is one of the bigger problems when it comes to innovating in housing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, what about transportation? Zoning and transportation, are those nearly as connected?
I think so. I mean, yeah, they are.
Because you transport people from work to businesses, I'm guessing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Having more businesses, if we lowered relax zoning, we could have more businesses, we can get people around easier and build, but it would have to be a concerted effort, right? We would have to like intentionally build transportation that can transport people at scale.
But doesn't it seem like a good thing to have all the businesses in one area and all the houses in another area?
Yeah, I mean,
Because then you could think of it as less transportation would be necessary, or fewer systems, maybe just one big bus that runs regularly. Here are the homes, here are the schools, here are the businesses. Okay.
Sure, yeah. And so I grew up in New York where everything is essentially mixed. So you have businesses, like I grew up on a block. The train station was down the block. The businesses were around the corner, and it was really convenient. Actually, I feel like it required less transportation because you could go to the supermarket down the street. You don't have to drive there, right?
Yeah, that's true. If every block had pretty much every essential business
that you would need, then you wouldn't have to go that often.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about the cities and like the transportation systems and compare them to the circulatory system, where the blood vessels need to the oxygen needs to go everywhere.
Yeah, it's like
it doesn't really matter which blood vessel goes to which place as long as the oxygen gets there, and there's hopefully no traffic jams.
Yeah,
it's just everything kind of has a flow to it,
right?
And resources get distributed somehow or another, even though there's
it's like the human systems. That's what I think of, like housing and transportation are like the fundamentals of society.
Well, yeah, except they're designed, sometimes intelligently, sometimes not intelligently
Exactly,
designed.
right,
And
right.
they don't have the forces of evolution shaping them. There are things that maybe shouldn't survive that do survive, and bad policy would be a big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean. The transportation and the housing are
intertwined. Yeah.
So maybe it'd be best if everything. What is the case for any single family homes? Why not just have apartments across the globe? Like, what's the argument against that?
Well, some people say they'll cast shadows. Some people say that they won't be affordable.
Why wouldn't they be affordable?
I know, right?
If anything, they'd be more affordable.
Yeah, exactly.
Just if there's more supply.
Yeah, and that's the key. And I think people don't really understand the scale that's needed. The scale is at least in the millions that we know of. But it's probably more than that.
Yeah.
Because we've had decades of price growth. And to bring that down to like something that people can actually afford will take a while and take a lot of homes. And it'll just require like a mentality shift. Part of like, I guess what quote unquote the American dream is to have that like white picket fence and the single family home and drive everywhere. But I think there's a new dream of like not needing a car.
Yeah.
Right?
There is a dream of that, yeah. Why is the fence an important part of the dream?
I don't know. I don't think it's very important. And also like suburbs, single family homes, I feel like they're very isolating.
Yeah. I see the appeal for the suburbs, the burbs.
I can kind of see it.
I mean,
it's quiet.
It's quiet. That's the appeal. And that is maybe the best argument against the apartment.
Yeah.
It's the noise.
Sure.
You have no control over your neighbors. There might be, if you're in a shitty one, thin walls. People are loud. People are up drinking all night.
It just matters how we design our homes, right?
Maybe that can be the new zoning. It's like, okay, these are apartments, but they're for like old people.
Old people. Well, there's senior housing.
There you go. Or maybe the bottom floors for every apartment are senior, quiet,
Yeah.
The top floors are the party floors.
Sure.
And then there's some culture of like...
Well, you could build like noise proofing.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe the standards related to that would change over time if it became...
I feel like there's like... It's like a canvas of art. Like you can design and build anything. And you have so many tools at your disposal that like apartments can be, they don't have to be boring. They can be interesting.
What do you think about the tiny house movement?
Yeah, well.
Because I think that those might still require cars.
Yeah, they do.
So it might do something for housing, but not as much for transportation. Plus,
I mean,
if you can't stack them, then it might be worse than having an apartment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As far as like how much land you're taking up.
Yeah, and kind of shifting a bit, talking about homeless. I mean, the number one thing they need is a home.
Yeah.
That is like fundamental.
Yeah. Yeah.
And current policy is like, oh, well, we'll kind of like move them around. Like, yeah, they need permanent housing.
Yeah.
And apartments can help in that.
You think it's possible to set up free apartments or subsidized? I mean, there already is.
Yeah,
subsidized
they've built them in San Francisco. They're just really expensive. And that's also another part.
Wait a minute. They've built subsidized apartments.
Yeah, that are expensive.
Yeah.
They cost like $600K a piece, which is kind of insane, right?
$600K a piece. You mean
per apartment?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right?
I mean, how much would it cost without the subsidy?
Well, it's still like construction costs, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, to buy, we're talking about
no, to create.
They
created these apartments, they didn't buy them.
And we're not talking about rent, is what I'm saying.
Right. And then, so they build these homes and then they offer them below market rate.
Gotcha. And what is the rent for something like that? Market
cheap.
rate is like $1,000, right?
Market rate?
Yeah.
It's like $4,000.
So below market rate, what is that?
Well, it can depend because it's based on like income. So if you're making like AMI, average median income, that's pretty high in San Francisco. So
yeah, I guess,
but it's still cheaper than normal market rate house.
Well, what's the value of living in San Francisco is the question, and that might be different for each person.
Sure, but generally, it's a great economy. It's a great city to live in, great weather.
Besides the fucking fog.
Yeah, true. True.
We'll die in this.
You love it. You love or hate it.
Yeah. Huh. I think the value of living in San Francisco is high if you're creative. If you're taking if you're taking advantage of the kind of the culture of San Francisco. But if not, if you're just,
Well, look, I mean, San Francisco isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
But I do think it's for a lot of people. I think it would be hugely beneficial.
Apparently. It's for millions of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, see, and that's why I try to ask you about things related to the startup scene or salon that you're involved in. Because to me, these really are the benefits of living in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I live here.
These kind of small interactions you can have with people over time, the networking that can be done.
For sure.
And you meet people here that you wouldn't meet
anywhere else.
Yeah.
Anywhere else.
I hope to actually come out here more often.
You should.
I don't know that I will, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I need a mission other than going to the fucking Chrome store.
Chrome store, yeah.
I
Yeah.
needed an excuse.
For sure.
Wow. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like you really are operating more like you're thinking about a lot of civil engineering stuff more so than the last time I spoke to you.
Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking back then. I think my mindset has changed a lot.
Was it going back to New York or some other stuff?
No, it was after I like made those videos about like housing, and I think they were very negative and trying to
these on
like
YouTube,
attack
by the way?
people. Huh?
Are these on YouTube?
They are.
What can people search to find them?
You can search my name, Isaac Rosenberg.
All right. Find Isaac Rosenberg on YouTube. Look for some housing videos. Okay, so anyhow.
I'm not proud of them, I will say that.
Well, should you be proud of it? I feel like creatively, there's no reason to truly be proud of old stuff. Like, you shouldn't feel like you have
You
to
should
be proud
always
of it.
be like looking back and being like, "Oh, I was so dumb back then." You know?
Yeah, I feel like almost nothing after it's done. I'm not really a few things I'm happy about after I finish them.
Yeah.
That's rare. Most of the time, I'm just like, okay, on to the
It's
next
just
thing.
the process.
Well,
you
know
know
what it is? Is that by the time I'm finished, I've already thought of another thing most of the time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really like finishing usually isn't as fun if I'm just finishing something that's the last prototype. You know?
Yeah.
It's fun if you finish something that really is the cutting edge as you're finishing it.
Right.
But most of the time, by the time I'm halfway through, I've made 9 mistakes, and the next prototype would be the version of it'd be me doing the same thing, even if I'm doing the same thing, doing that same thing without the 9 mistakes. I'm more excited about that than I am about this thing that I know I already fucked up 9 times.
Sure.
I'm excited about the version where I've perfected the things I just messed up.
Yeah.
Or it's just paradigm shifting. I'm just doing something else that's not even close to what I was doing before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, you can find those videos, Isaac Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah. What was it about those videos that was?
Yeah, it was the attitude. So I was like kind of attacking people, and
What were you saying? I haven't watched these videos, but what? Give me the summary. Fuck this person.
yeah, that was basically that's kind of like the TLDR. I made a video about Beverly Hills. They were so they're building a subway in Beverly Hills. In Beverly Hills, the high school was like, this will cause like congestion and all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And I made a video about that. I was like, you guys suck, basically.
Oh, so you're doing response videos, huh?
Yeah. I was making about like current events, more or less.
Huh? And you stopped doing those?
Yeah, I did stop.
Why?
Again, the attitude. I think like
Yeah, but I think it's funny. You find some obscure transportation thing you don't like, and then you just rant about it, and then that's the video. Is that what you were doing?
yeah, more or less.
Maybe you should, reconsider those videos, because I feel like there's a comedic side to those that maybe it's not perfected, but when you do get it, it could actually be a really cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it could be really interesting. Just has to the approach has to be different. Hey, Sini.
Hey.
What's up? What are you guys up to? We're recording a podcast.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Cool. Good to see you, man.
Okay, so you were a big hater on the Beverly Hills transportation system that you saw.
Or I was hating on the Beverly Hills High School.
Oh, the high school.
Yeah.
For stopping the development of a train
Exactly.
system that you thought was a good idea.
Yes.
And then
So they were concerned about like construction dust and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
wow. And then now you said, okay, I'm guessing what you were thinking is, I don't want to be a hater. I want to
unify people.
And okay, and how are you doing that now? How are you unifying?
I'm focused more on like a message of like this can be a positive thing.
And this meaning changes updating transportation systems?
Yeah, and housing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I used to frame it like there's two things you could do if you're a rational being.
Yeah.
One of them is hating.
Yeah.
You can tell people why they're full of shit. You're well equipped to do that. But then another
And
thing,
then what does that get done?
well, sometimes it's good.
Sometimes.
If you're in an environment where it's dangerous to be a hater, then it could be really beneficial to speak out. Like,
Sure.
Like if you're a whistleblower, basically, you know.
See ya.
If there's some problem, if there's some corruption, and you're taking a stand
Yeah.
by articulating exactly what the problem is,
Right.
in an environment where either people don't know there's a problem or they know and they're scared to speak out on it,
Right.
then it can be good to criticize, to critique, to hate.
Yeah.
Right? But most of the time, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be the person critiquing anything.
Sure.
I would much rather be the person who is like building something else,
Right.
like building something that is a superior product, so that now I don't have to critique the shitty thing because there's just a
I
better
have something
option.
better. Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a better option, and people will just willingly choose the better option.
That's what I'm going for. That's exactly what I'm going for.
But it's hard. It's harder to build than it is to break things down.
Sure. Yeah, and it's easy to criticize and
It's easy to criticize, and also, just because you're criticizing doesn't even mean you have a better solution. So that's another thing too.
exactly.
Sometimes,
Exactly.
even if I want to criticize, I would rather do it after I have an alternative.
Right.
And when
And I had no alternative.
yeah, so
Yeah.
but that's good. I think that's a part of the kind of evolution of dealing with problems.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, you need to get your stuff out. You need to have your angry moment, but eventually you should probably try to build something if you can.
Yeah, exactly.
And you do have skills that would allow you to,
build something better.
to make a mark, you know,
Or at least provide a model of what could be.
Right. Right. And I think that's powerful. I think honestly, I think that that's something that isn't done enough. I mentioned this earlier today, but like a lot of the time, the people who have the power to change things don't have the vision. They don't really know what's possible.
Right.
Right. There was a saying that back when, I don't know, I guess Henry Ford was said something along the lines of if you were to ask people what they wanted, they'd say more horses or something.
Yeah,
to do with
better
horses, better horses,
A faster horse.
a faster
yeah.
horse, something related to horses, because
Sure.
that's what was in their environment. It's not even possible for them to think about an engine if they've never seen or heard one or studied chemistry.
Sure.
How would they even know about an engine?
Right.
So a lot of the time, there are people amongst us who know about engines in the world of horses,
Yeah.
but they're probably, a lot of the time, they're not in power. And I think it's their job to say, hey, let me talk about this thing that's possible. Even though I
Right.
can't do it. Let me just talk about it. Let me put it out there that this thing is possible, so that those who really are in a position to make decisions and make changes are picking from the best possible pool of ideas.
Yeah.
Instead of just their idea.
Sure.
Because their
sure.
idea, let's be real, it's better horses most of the time.
Yeah.
you know.
Totally.
And it's, if you have the and I see people who are skilled in software as people who know about things other than horses that regular people don't really know about.
Sure.
because what is software? It's. I mean, it seems to me like directly it's organizing bits, but indirectly it's a human brain plus a computer is like the ultimate computing tool.
Absolutely.
And it's like the world of computation. You live in the world of computation.
Right.
And you know certain things can be computed that other people don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe sharing a part of that can be a way of producing rather than criticizing.
Right.
You know,
right.
Models are a meaningful way to produce.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Even though it's just a model.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you can make something visual, you can make something interactive, you could really enhance someone's ability to see beyond the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I actually want to read my my letter to you. I was going to read it in the restaurant.
You wrote me a letter?
No, it wasn't. It was the fucking domes thing.
Oh, that, okay.
Yeah, the thing that I got outed for. But it's going to take me a minute to grab it. So give me a second.
Yeah, go for it.
I got to search for this shit. Boom. Actually, you should read it.
Is this the letter you sent?
Yeah, this is the reason why I got thrown out of the nose. Okay, here it is. Can you read this aloud?
Okay. Oh my God.
Now, actually, I'm not going to prime you with anything.
I, John Pierre Papalute, currently residing in the Dome 8 loft, would like to be in SCHA bad standing. I understand that this must be confusing. But I am not admitting to any specific action or violation of SCHA policy. I am only asking to be placed in bad standing. In some sense, I am an accuser and maybe possibly a perpetrator of any any actions that may have been warranted. My bad standing request will remain unclear. Although this request is for moral reasons, I'd like to avoid making any self-incriminating statements for political reasons. Consider the question: if another SCHA member has the power to place me in bad standing, and I can do the same for another, why shouldn't I be able to out myself? I am prepared to suffer the punishment of a bad standing status. Please reply to this email once you've made your decision. And then there's
Oh, there might be a response to it.
yeah, there is.
Okay, so what?
Wow.
Now here's my question, and I think that this is vaguely related to what we were saying about
Yeah.
building rather than criticizing.
Sure.
And also like imagination. But first of all, it's not even clear what this is.
Yeah.
Other than a request for bad standing.
Yeah.
It's not clear what it is. But also, I would argue that this is a situation where there's building rather than criticizing.
Okay.
And the reason for that is there's actually no attack.
Yeah.
And this was at a time I was very worried, right? Like, okay, I could be in a corrupt organization right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like, you know what? Let me, instead of attacking anyone,
Yeah.
let me only risk my own reputation and just learn.
Yeah.
I'd rather just learn about what's going on directly from my own experience
Right.
than say someone's doing something wrong. I don't know that anyone's doing anything wrong. I'll find out if something's wrong based off of how I'm treated.
Yeah.
And in some sense, you know, at the time, I'd say that's better character than average rather than worse than average.
Sure.
Because there's no one who's harmed. The worst case scenario is you have an innocent person who's getting punished.
Yeah.
That's really the worst case scenario. Because if you have a guilty person getting punished, well, they should be getting punished. They're fucking guilty,
Sure.
right? So the worst thing is, oh, we were wrong and this is an innocent person, but it's the same person who's asking to be punished. So it's like if an innocent person says, hang me, the worst thing that can happen is they're actually innocent. And they get hung. Because now you have an innocent person that got hung.
Yeah.
But if they're guilty and they say, hang me, that's not an injustice. The only injustice is on the part of the person who's actually requesting the person getting hung. And this is in stark contrast to me saying, hang that other innocent person.
Yeah.
Because then there is harm done, right? That other innocent person had nothing to do with the process.
Yeah.
But they got hung, which is worse than you just being hung.
Right.
And the hope is that, well, they'll notice I'm innocent and they won't hang me.
But they did.
If it's a good, no, well, they did something else. But if it's a good system, then when it's my turn to get hung, they'll say, okay, let's review his case. Oh, he's innocent, so we won't hang him.
Right.
If it's a bad system, they'll just hang me. Oh, he has to be hung, so we just hung.
Clearly, it was a bad system.
But I would argue crafting a way of testing my hypothesis is a form of producing rather than criticizing.
Interesting, yeah.
Because you have the option to just say, oh, fuck this whole thing. Everybody's terrible.
Yeah.
The system's corrupt, Or you could say, well, let me take it as a hypothesis that the system is corrupt and prove whether it's corrupt or not. And that approach is another indirect way of producing rather than criticizing.
Yeah.
Is that you can actually test your hypothesis in the real world, and that knowledge gained is actually a product of your thinking.
Yeah.
So in some sense, you can become a detective rather than just screaming, the sky is falling.
Sure.
Say, well, is the sky really falling? How could I test that?
That's really interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, this obviously was not taken as like a beautiful thing to anyone other than me at the time. But I have real skin in the game when I say that. Yeah, you should. It is tough when you see stuff that's broken to say, to like resist just talking shit.
Yeah. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. And I talked shit. But I don't think that will lead to, I mean, it's good. Like, I called people out.
Yeah, but there's a limit to that, man.
Exactly. There's a limit.
It's good, but not great.
It's not great. Yeah, exactly. What's
supposed to be the end goal of calling someone out?
Exactly.
I mean, is it a community response? I mean, especially in the world of transportation.
Right.
Is calling someone out going to make the train go or make them build the train?
Sure.
Probably not.
Probably not.
You know? So I think sometimes going for someone's reputation is the easiest thing and not the best thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was easy, but not constructive. I don't think it was very constructive.
Yeah. I was actually reminded of this. I know this guy who he had trouble with some girl back in the day.
Okay.
And he was telling me, you know what I want to do? I want to go to her house across the street and fucking have some kind of a get together right near her place. so that she knows that I'm allowed, I'm allowed to be here.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, ma'am, is that really the best use of your time? Because it sounds like what you're trying to do is annoy her directly.
Yeah.
Rather than up yourself. Like maybe what you should do is build the best version of you that you can build rather than trying to knock somebody else down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that this is a constant battle as a creative in any field, whether it's software or whatever, is that when you see problems, the natural response is always, for a lot of people at least, without any training, is attack mode. Yeah. But it's not usually the best. Anyhow, we spend a lot of time on that. But basically, you moved on from making those shit talking videos.
Yeah, I moved on.
You moved on from making those, and now you're in the game. You're running for office again. What are you running for?
I'm gonna run for mayor.
For mayor of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Which is a wild thing, but these days,
everything
we got Trump
is
and
wild.
Bloomberg.
Yeah,
going
exactly.
for office, so I guess it's not far-fetched anymore.
No,
For national office, that is.
for sure.
But, so what is your, politically, I'm still a little confused about this.
Yeah.
It seems like as far as problem solving, you have the credentials, you have the interest, you're meeting with, people who know about infrastructure.
Yeah.
But as far as politics, what is your political strategy for winning the mayor of San Francisco? What year will you be running?
It would be like 2023.
2023. Yeah.
So we have a few years to go.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Is kind of the TLDR.
Yeah, you should work in the mayor's office, I'm telling you.
Yeah, they have
And just be a normal intern. You'll be coming from a different background, They'll probably respect that. Everyone's going to be a political science student.
Yeah. True.
Maybe. I feel like the political connections, you got to be aggressive with that.
Yeah.
wanna win
And
mayor.
I'm kind of starting to do that right now.
That's good. Well, best luck to you.
Thank you.
It is
It's going to
pretty
be a
wild.
long road.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. It's pretty wild to me when anyone from the logic world leaves the logic world. In any way, shape, or
Yeah.
because it's so different from everything else. There's the amount of, I just think the merit-based way of operating is unique to the logic world.
Yeah.
I don't really think anything else is like that. I don't think it's possible to know how good anyone is
Sure.
outside of the world where it's measurable. So it's like there's a lot of bullshit, and it's just weird. How do you distinguish what's real and what's fake? If somebody's like, I'm a programmer,
Yeah.
you can find out within the first hour of watching them code
Sure.
where they stand.
Right.
How are they approaching certain things? How do they comment on code? How do they set up functions? You could kind of have a feel for, okay, this person's like top shelf, not so much, or they just got out of college.
Right.
That's not true for a lot of shit, though. You really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really don't know. There's no way of knowing. It's just like,
Especially in
people like
politics.
this person.
It's hard to
That's it.
distinguish between good and bad.
Because it's popular. And people value. There was this thought experiment. I think it was
I also think, though, people will value honesty as well.
some people.
Some people.
A lot of people don't give a fuck about honesty because they don't know what's real and what's not. So if you promise them something, they have no way of verifying whether or not that thing is even possible.
It's true.
So it's based off of trust, which is ultimately subjective if you don't actually know the person.
Yeah.
Let me put it like this. If you wear the right clothes on a certain day, that will radically change the perception of you, whether or not people trust you. Just because it's based off of a
Suit and
knee-jerk
tie.
decision, a certain tie, like what kind of shoes you have on
Sure.
could sway someone, could sway 1,000 people, 10,000 people in your favor or against you on any given day.
That's true.
Nobody knows each other. They're just looking. It's all just symbolic communication. Oh, this, that. Okay, I trust him. Oh, this, and that. Oh, I don't.
And a lot of people have their kind of like checklists.
Yeah, everybody has a checklist, whether they're aware of it or not.
Yeah.
And it's like, it takes skills to get beyond your own checklist.
Sure.
To see that you even have biases, let alone, the willingness to combat them or try to overcome them.
Yeah.
So it's a sticky, tricky world, but, it's doable.
Yeah, it is doable.
And it might be necessary in order to achieve the goals that you're interested in.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you tune in with, and I bring him up because he claims to be a big transportation guy these days. But Elon Musk, are you aware of his latest shenanigans?
Yes, I am aware of his...
What do you think of tunneling then? Because that's a basic thing that's been proposed, right? That's like a model that's been put out.
Sure. It's definitely an option.
But
it has very low throughput.
What do you mean?
Like, if you see the tunnels and how big they are,
yeah,
they're really small.
If you built, the idea of tunneling, though.
Sure.
If you built them bigger, I
think it would work, but then it's just like shuttling cars, right?
Yeah.
And
in your view, cars themselves are a problem.
they are, because they just think of it, right? It's not just cars, you got to park them, right? Parking takes up huge amounts of space.
That to me is the most hopeful side of self-driving cars, is that maybe parking can be like, train parking, where you have certain lots with cars.
Right.
But for the most part, people need cars to move throughout the city. So you just, instead of owning a car and parking it somewhere and then it's sitting,
Sure.
the car is just a part of the city, more like a taxi.
Right.
Yeah, that seems like a very hopeful thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. Even then, still you need like curbside parking and that kind of stuff.
For nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah, the majority of people are asleep.
Right.
Maybe that's what the tunnels are the most useful for, is parking.
Probably.
Car storage.
Car storage, yeah.
Just put those things underground and then we'll bring them up when we need them.
Yeah. Trains, I'm a huge fan of trains. I think I've maybe...
Why? What's so great about trains versus a bus?
Versus a bus. Well, a bus can be great if it has its own lanes.
Yeah.
But it needs its own lanes, period.
And that's what the advantage of a train is. It basically has its own lane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has its own lane. It can pick up drop off thousands of people at once very smoothly.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Maybe that's it. Maybe in the future there will just be more trains.
That's what I think.
But then again, if you have the setup where each block has everything you need, then do you even need trains?
Yes.
Because, I guess to get to... There's got to be some centralized stuff.
Sure. You can't just... there has to be more... You can't have everything within walking distance. You have to hang out with friends, that kind of stuff. People live on different parts of the city.
They might live in one big apartment.
Yeah, ideally. That's true.
Then hanging out with friends is trivial. You just go upstairs.
There was actually a proposal in San Francisco. It was like this. It would have been this huge, basically mega building to house 1 million people or something.
Yeah. That's horrifying.
It was an interesting concept. You literally would have had everything you need.
Here's what's scary. People are people. So there's going to be something wrong with the management that's going to turn it just horrific. Like imagine if they cut corners, building the building, they cut corners on the locks or something trivial, but then it gets scaled to 1 million people.
That's fair. That's fair.
So anything, there's so many ways that it could go wrong just with that, where it's like you're building or what if you are in one of the houses and your key works for another house?
Oh, that would be fucked up.
1 million different keys.
But I think we've already mastered
I mean, something along those lines.
Sure.
Right? Where like the fact that it's duplicating the same thing creates a vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also why we need to like reform construction processes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To make it more efficient and safer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Safety. That's another thing that I always thought was funny about my little dome hut situation, was that we had no physical safety.
No?
All the safety talk about, everybody's problematic, everybody needs to be canceled.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you could break into one of these places, no sweat. This is the farthest thing from safe.
Yeah.
Somehow, for some reason or another, everybody else is making it unsafe. I don't understand it.
Crazy.
But yeah, maybe along with the zoning things, the construction standards are another thing holding back the development of these more advanced systems as you see them.
Exactly.
Because
you
got to work with what you have, and maybe when you take everything into account, the apartments as you see it, the single family homes as you see it, really do make sense economically, and a lot would have to change in a lot of industries before we could jump to like the pod houses,
right,
or something close to that.
Right. Exactly.
You should live in an apartment.
I did. I grew up in an apartment.
I mean, for a while, you should, for political reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to live here forever.
Well, that's true.
I can't.
But if you're going to be the apartment guy,
Yeah.
you got to live in an apartment. Otherwise, people are going to think you're phony.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Mostly have lived in apartments. Yeah. Mostly.
That's good. Well, San Francisco apartment. The next place, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
I told you, but I hope to be living in houses moving forward. Or actually, I'm in an apartment now, maybe apartments, but like taking advantage of the fact that there are so many students.
Yeah.
And like, if you can afford to take on a lease by yourself, then you can just split it up as you please and charge rent.
Right.
Based off of whatever numbers you want
Sure.
for your profit.
Yeah.
And then it could be passive. So hopefully by August, I'll have enough saved up to where I could just get my own space and then rent it out to students, international students or something.
That would be amazing.
And then, it could, because people run that game every year. There's no reason why I couldn't do it. And the beauty of it is, it's like, if it's an apartment and it's lease, it's like, I don't have to have any special paperwork done. I'm just a renter.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I think it's time to wrap things up
Okay.
with the most important question in
Yeah.
the universe.
What is this question?
Triangles or squares?
Triangles.
That's right. Strawberry, blueberry. One berry, two berry. That's a snack, blackberry. Hey, do I really want the stem or the cherry? Bucket naked doing mathematics. Hey, dynamic, I don't mind static. Hey, can't deny it, I might die tonight. Hey, every rainbow's just white light. Keep my toppings on topper. Helicopters, helicopter, draw the whole lot. Cartographer, think about thoughts. Philosopher, check the bars with a barometer. Not a day without chefing, that's negligence. Don't trust what I say, check the evidence. It all depends on the mold you were shaped in. What you make from the leaves that you break in. Either you get it or you don't. Either it's burnt bread or it's toast. Either a wavelength or a note. Either a joke or a real quote. Either use it or lose your vote. Strawberry, blueberry. One berry, two berry. That's a snack, blackberry. Hey, do I really want the stem or the cherry? Not the most musical, more Dr. Seussical. All my work's useless, I keep my dick usable. I'm a nuisance, the proof's in the juices. Finish all your trig and your sig, fig Newtons. She smoked that estrogen and progesterone. Threw it in the vape, took it to the dome. Fuck it, I might hit the testosterone. Chef's cut, dopamine with some melatonin. I can't tame it if it's too tame. I can't name it, it's a new name. Left, right when the life came. Every night play the dice game. Draw the line through the right planes. Is it mean if I don't mean it? What's a fucking mean to a deviant? And not to diss you, but you stop chefing. I don't miss you, I have no tissue. Strawberry, blueberry. One berry, two berry. That's a snack, blackberry. Hey, do I really want the stem or the cherry? I keep it one more than 1,000. I see these sheep charged up, keep it rounded. Somebody show these where the pound is. I think the kitchen's getting crowded. Same place, different state. Same shit the chefs love, the sheep hate. Keep my beats in a briefcase. Never cheap with the beefsteak. Nothing free in that sweepstake. I think they're locked into the optics. I'm like the opposite, I'm like their complement. I'd rather say a lot with a little. Sold the violin, got a fiddle. If you don't experiment, you don't walk. You wanna talk? Are you really about the chalk? Then please shut the fuck up. Enough is enough. Cheap ass arguments, get your tongue cut. Strawberry, blueberry. One berry, two berry. That's a snack, blackberry. Hey, do I really want the stem or the cherry?